Hi all. As previously mentioned, this is a quickish video solely about my process for changing my stoma bag. I won't be showing you my stoma or a dirty stoma bag attached to my person or anything like that, but I will be using a set of clean stoma bags and a fake stoma. So I appreciate this isn't for everybody, so I'll pause here. If you're really not interested, now is the time to switch off. Okay, thanks for staying with me. Most days, or preferably in my case, every other day, I need to change the bag. I don't need to show you the real thing, as I said, because when I had my operation, I was provided with a fake stoma so that I could practice putting the bag on and off before I had the real thing. Didn't actually happen like that because everything went so quickly, but I can use it here to show you this. The operation that I had is called a low anterior resection of rectum with a defunctioning loop ileostomy. That means that my stoma looks very different to the one you'll see in this example. But to be fair, all stomas look a little different. I actually have two stomas, thus the phrase loop. One that points immediately or sort of uppish, and one that points downish. The upper one is the active stoma, and the lower one is the defunctioning loop. What follows is a description of my process, developed with a great deal of help from my stoma nurses. Everybody will have their own process and their own needs, but hopefully this will give you an insight into the kind of process that people go through on a daily basis. And if you have friends or family that have a stoma but find it difficult to talk about, perhaps this will help you understand their issues a little bit better. Taking the bag off is messy and usually best done when I haven't eaten for some time and the stoma is less active and I can be less rushed as well. I have no urgency. Doesn't always work out like that, of course. So that normally means before breakfast for me or early in the morning. Uh, the stoma can actually be active at any time, and the pace of your gut speeds up and slows down for all sorts of different reasons. But people will pick the time that suits them best. I change my bag standing up near a sink so that I've got warm water and everything is at a reasonable height for me to get my hands on it quickly. The preparation that I need to do includes cutting the opening on the bag to the correct size for my stoma, cutting dry wipes in half, otherwise it's very wasteful, filling a cup with warm water so that I can clean myself, and ensuring that everything that I need is within easy reach. That would include the stoma bags themselves, a barrier ring, adhesive powder, adhesive remover, scissors, dry wipes, a mirror, the cleaning cup filled with warm water, a disposable razor, a toilet tube, waste bags. I've got a dedicated towel, and possibly you might want to think about having a angled torch or a torch of some description, uh, especially if you're traveling and you don't know what the light will be like in the room you're working in. The travel bag containing all my stoma kit is also kept close to hand too because accidents do happen and it may be necessary to start all over again with an entirely new stoma bag, or even you might get a bit messy and just want to change something. The travel bag should contain plenty of waste bags and dry wipes, but also at least one spare pre-cut stoma bag. The dedicated towel is just a normal bath towel. I tuck that into my trousers or PJs or such just to keep everything clean. Um, the stoma can be quite sudden in its activity, so things can get very messy. The waste bag is then tucked over the top of the towel, again into whatever I'm wearing, immediately under the stoma bag. This will not only catch the removed stoma bag, but it'll also catch any output from the stoma if you're caught unawares. That's the theory anyway. Placing the dirty wet wipes, dry wipes, into the bag becomes easier if it's that close as well. Ideally, the new stoma bag needs to be prepared in advance, with the opening cut to the best dimensions to fit around your stoma. Uh, I use a template from a recent, previously cut stoma bag. When you first have the operation, the stoma changes shape and size a fair bit, so you're constantly changing the template, maybe even every 2 or 3 days sometimes. Um, to cut the opening, there's a specialist pair of curved blunt scissors. Uh, and then you have to check the inside of the bag to make sure there aren't any harsh edges to the barrier. Trim it a little if necessary, and then just double check it's still okay. You don't want it too wide. You don't want it too close either. Then I place the mirror in front of me on the sink in a convenient spot so that I can see my stoma without moving around too much. And then I'm ready to begin. First thing to do, of course, is empty the stoma bag itself if necessary. You don't want to be having a heavy bag full of output. The stoma bag is removed slowly, and I pull the skin away from the bag rather than the other way around. That means that I've got much greater control of how the bag is removed, but also I'm taking much greater care of the skin itself, remembering this is an open wound into your gut. So that means I'm not pulling hard on the skin at any point, nor am I tearing at my skin. Um, being very delicate, very calm. You can still do it reasonably quickly once you get used to it. Once the stoma bag is removed, I fold it up and I put it into a waste bag. And I've got into the habit of then putting that to one side so that there isn't a heavy weight pulling down on that as I'm working. And then I get another waste bag, put it out, loop it over the towel. I then clean the stoma itself, getting rid of any excess output that I can see, and the area around the stoma where the bag was attached also needs to be cleaned. A soft touch is helpful here, but if the output is large or very sticky, it can take some time. The dry wipes are dampened via the cleaning cup of warm water. I squeeze them out so there's not too much water, and then gently wipe on the stoma and on my tummy to get rid of any excess output and to just generally clean the area. Sometimes the stoma will become active whilst you're changing the bag. That's frustrating, but you just collect it on the damp and wet wipes or let it collect into the bag if you can, and just keep cleaning yourself and wait it out. I then use the adhesive remover to remove the glue from the previous bag, and it's important there to try and wipe away from the stoma. That's because the glue sort of clumps up and it can leave little balls of glue on your stoma if you're not careful, or you have to try and get them off with a wet dry wipe. The next bit depends on how hairy your tummy is. I have quite a hairy tummy, so once or twice a week I have to shave not only the area where the bag is placed, but about 1 inch around it. This is because the hairs get stuck to the barrier of the bag, and that means that when you're trying to take it off, A, it's a little bit more tricky, but B, it's painful. Also, the 1 inch around the stoma bag is because the hairs are so long on my tummy, they get stuck into the edges of the barrier, and then as I move, they tug and they get sharp sort of pinging sort of pains. Uh, so I use a disposable razor to do that, and the toilet tube with a little bit cut out of it is used to protect the stoma whilst I work with the razor. Being very, very careful. Some of the skin around the stoma, even in my case, many months afterwards, is still very delicate, and also you don't want to go anywhere near the stoma itself with a razor. And I razor away from the stoma itself, very, very carefully. Care is required there. I then need to wash the whole area again with a damp and dry wipe, and use a dry wipe, gently patting down to dry the whole area. All being well, we can then move on to add in the adhesive powder, concentrating on the area immediately around the stoma and any openish sort of sore bits. Whilst it's actually quite hard to apply, it is really good. It is a little bit wasteful. It falls off your finger as you try to put it on because it is just a powder. Yeah. And it should collect in the bag. So put that all the way around the stoma, as I said. I then take the new cut stoma bag and I put it under my arm for a minute or two just to warm up the barrier ring and make it more pliable and a little bit stickier when it applies. Then I remove the protective cover off of the bag barrier and I add a separate barrier ring. This can be squished and shaped into the opening and close any gaps that you might have when you compare it to your actual stoma. The main purpose of the barrier ring is to just lift things away from the skin a little bit. It protects the skin a little better. I've had some issue with soreness since I've been on my new chemotherapy, and so I was advised to try the barrier ring, and it worked brilliantly. And I've had significantly less problems since that. But other people will use different things and may not use barrier rings at all. It just basically helps prevent escape of the output underneath the bag barrier, which may push the bag and cause leaks. I double check that the stoma and the surrounding area are clean and dry, and that I have adequate adhesive powder in the right area. And then I attach the bag. I open the opening a little bit wider by folding across the middle, and then I place it underneath the stoma, and then pull it over the top gently with as little contact with the stoma itself as possible, and then place it over the top, and then slowly press down around the stoma where the barrier ring is, and then moving my way out to the outer edges, very, very gently pressing down. The moisture in your skin and in the area will activate the adhesive powder and the barrier ring, and the whole thing will stick to your skin fairly quickly. I then gently place the palm of my hand over the attached bag for a few minutes on either side, underneath and slightly above, making sure not to press on the stoma itself. This again warms the barrier and activates the qualities of all the adhesives that are present. And then you're done. Double check in the mirror and that, make sure everything looks like it's all attached and there aren't any issues. Make sure you collect up your waste, tie the bag, empty the wash bowl, clean it with very hot water, collect everything together into your travel bag. Job done. And that's it. It can take over an hour if you're unlucky. If you've really got it sorted together and everything goes quickly, maybe as little as 20 minutes. Obviously, it's taken me a lot less to explain it to you here. So, I hope that's helpful to people. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next update. Bye.